We are here with Mr. Mark Hamilton from SPX Corporation. You're Vice President for Leadership and Development. Your corporation has been growing dramatically over the last few years, especially in Asia Pacific and around the globe. Part of that with acquisition, and also a big transformation from a corporation that was probably some years ago more of a conglomerate, now a real corporation that tries to have common culture and all the leadership challenges that go with it. If I think a little bit about your company, I mean, what are the leadership characteristics that you would say are the most important for the type of organization you are today and you're trying to build?
Well, I think what you said about SPX is a great introduction, Martin. We are growing very quickly, and so leading that kind of change in the organization is probably one of the most important characteristics for any leader. And not just at the executive level, we've really empowered, we have a very lean organization, we've really empowered our entire workforce to make a significant contribution to how we are changing as an organization. So, for example, we have a lot of technology-focused divisions within SPX. They're focused on food processing markets, focused on energy and power markets, and those industries are changing very quickly.
Indeed.
And we find that some of our best ideas really come from the people in the office floor and the shop floor, as well as the engineering lab. So leaders who can harness the diversity and the creativity of employees at every level in the organization are very important to SPX.
In the last 10 years, probably the task of leaders, not only because of your growth, but also because of the changes that the world in general is going through. In the last few years, you have seen probably important changes in the kinds of things that we require from our leaders. What those changes will be, in your view?
Well, in the last year, we've seen a seismic change.
That's for sure.
We
yes.
were fairly proud as an organization that we could forecast business conditions, that most of our markets were really focused on long-term growth. And now we found, of course, that we have to be more flexible and adaptable. I'm very proud of the organization because I think we have one foot firmly planted in the present. We have to meet our commitments, our financial commitments to our customers, to our shareholders, to our employees. And at the same time, we're making a significant investment in new product development, in people development, in infrastructure development within the organization so that we can be well positioned for future growth, which we know is going to be there. Strategy is something that can be elusive. I think the reality of the world today can, I've heard somebody put it, can kind of chew up your business strategy, but we find it's our guiding light. We think it's important because we work very hard to go from a conglomerate to being very focused on the few end markets that we think we can differentiate our business offerings to our customers.
You talk about strategy, and you also mentioned about the changes of the corporation, and before that we were talking about the importance of building a common culture across geographies, especially when you're growing to integration. How have you proceeded in building that corporate culture?
I'd say very slowly, because I think we approached it as we wanted a culture that would add to what the businesses were doing and not distract them from what they were doing. We knew that we had to focus on a few critical processes. And so having something that people can align with, we talk about competency models as being the behaviors that really live out the values of the organization. So about a year and a half ago, we designed really a new vision and mission statement for SPX, and we changed significantly the wording of our values and really built it around the organization for the future, these end markets where we really wanted to grow in the industries that we felt were going to be important to the growth of population and the growth of the world responsibly. So we took those values and we chose very intentionally the kind of competencies, the behaviors that we really expect from people who are individual contributors or leading people or leading businesses. And we said, this is what we're going to use to measure people against. And so we have feedback, 360 feedback, other kinds of assessment and feedback to our leaders about how they're doing against those critical competencies. And that's part of our development program for leaders as well. So I think we're creating our culture through our leadership pipeline in the organization. And I'm happy to say that it is having an impact in every business in every part of the world.
Indeed. Building a culture is probably the most difficult part of an organization. Changing the culture when you need to change it, but it's a competitive tool that nobody can imitate easily. Now, you mentioned that you are clearly well positioned in the energy business. I was looking one of your ads that tells us that you're also very importantly positioned in the renewable business. How this the fact that we're facing today challenges in terms of the generation of energy and the use of energy have affected your business, and what responses do you come up with on that area?
Well, fortunately, the areas of technology and products that we've invested in for quite a while have always been very focused on environmentally responsible energy generation and distribution. Power transformers that we produce are high efficiency power transformers. The kinds of thermal products that are used in power plants scrub the air, they transfer heat very efficiently. We're now pioneering the solar thermal generation with new products that build on the ones that we've always been well invested in. So we see ourselves as improving conventional energy generation, power generation, as well as adding to our portfolio in the areas that are going to grow quite a bit. Maybe not as quickly as we need them to as a world, but in the future we see ourselves being in solar and in other alternative energy. We are one of the largest suppliers of silicon crystal growing furnaces to not just the chip industry, the semiconductor industry, but also to photovoltaic power producers. So we found we're able to convert our high technology and aim it at what the world needs.
Let me change a little bit the subject. One of the difficulties that corporations are facing today, even in this relatively munificent market for talent, in the sense that there is unemployment, it is the attraction and retention of managers that can actually make your operations work, that can show all these development plans that you have, all these growth plans. How do you go about it, and what challenges are you facing in that respect?
Well, when we talk about managers, I think of people at a couple different levels in the organization, the people who are leading individual teams and people who are leading functions or businesses in the organization. We found over the last few years we've been actually able to promote more people internally in the organization. And it's because they have a very strong loyalty and an understanding of the processes in the areas that they are familiar with, and then over time we challenge them with our talent development process to take on areas that they're not that familiar with, but with guidance are able to, because they have the interest in doing that. I think our organization is fortunate to have a lot of people, because of our culture, who are entrepreneurial in their spirit. They like being in an organization that doesn't have a lot of bureaucracy. We have a lot of size, we have a lot of financial capital, but we don't have a lot of structure that gets in the way of people like that. And so they're able to kind of create the kind of organization and lead and get the followership from the people that they've worked with for a period of time.
Let me switch a little bit task once more and think about more you as a leader. What would you say were the big milestones in your development as a leader, both in this organization but in general?
Well, I'll talk about in general. And as I was growing up, I was fortunate. I had a lot of very strong leaders in my life, my father and teachers, and I was never a particularly tall or athletic person, and so I found I had to find a different way of finding my way in the world than a lot of men did as I was growing up. And I found that leadership in school and then in my first jobs leading people was very satisfying for me. And so I went from being a leader to really studying leaders. And now leadership is, I think, a core value in my life. And I see it showing up in the lives of my daughters. I have 2 daughters, and I can see that that same desire to make an impact in the world and to influence and affect other people and being influenced by other people, being someone who is happy to follow other leaders. So I think that's a model for the future, not having the one right answer that everybody else has to conform to.
Thank you very much for your time. Again, Mr. Mark Hamilton, Vice President for Leadership and Development of SPX Corporation. Thank you.